Yo, what is going on, guys? Today is Sunday. It is the last day of my mini cut. It is also Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. As far as the mini cut goes, I mean, it was super smooth. Today, again, is the last day. Haven't had any strength drops. In fact, everything's been progressing the whole time. Um, so really happy about that. Everything is on track. I am excited to start the next phase, the next push-up phase, which will probably last until the end of the year. So I'm going to push up from now until the end of December, and then maybe run a pre-prep phase at that point, and then go into prep for 2025. So that's kind of the game plan for the rest of the year. But right now, for today, it is back day. So let's just jump right into it and get into the back workout. Okay, so jumping right into the workout here, I start this back day off with unilateral pull downs, 2 sets, 8 to 12 rep range, as you can see there. Now, this is like my first set, so you could call it a top set. I have 2 sets, so 2 top sets here. I've done, I think it was 4 warm-up sets before I got to this working weight right here. So that's an important thing that I want to touch on, is make sure that the muscle that you're going to be working is warmed up, is primed, is ready to go before you go into your initial working set. This applies mostly on whatever exercise you're going into first, right? As you get deeper into the workout, you don't really need that many warm-up sets. You're already kind of good to go. So yeah, 4 warm-up sets before I got to this working weight right here. And I can't remember how many reps I got here, but it was within my rep range, I believe. And one of the things I want to point out with this exercise is like where my elbow is being driven. So this is something I see constantly done wrong with this exercise, just because this exercise is becoming so popular, the unilateral pull down itself. You'll see where my elbow is pulling. It's pulling like into my hip and kind of in front of my hip a little bit, right? It's not wrapping around my back, which is something that I see people doing and thinking that that is somehow making them get more lat out of the movement. But once you start doing that, once that elbow starts going behind your torso and starts wrapping around you, you're not using your lat anymore. You're using your upper back to move that weight. So that's something to really be conscious of when you're doing this movement, because it's meant to isolate the lats here. So if you're doing it for that reason, which is, you wouldn't be doing this exercise for any other reason than that, that's something to pay attention to. Another thing to pay attention to within this movement would be not letting the shoulder have excessive movement. I see a lot of people going for like an excessive stretch at the top of the movement, because of the full range of motion, paradigm that's around at the moment, that's super popular. And that's another thing where once that scapula becomes protracted and your shoulder starts moving excessively upwards, the shoulder then has to retract in order to pull that weight back. That's your upper back. And most people are not going to be able to transition from pulling and initiating with upper back and then go transition into the lat mid movement. So they're just going to kind of turn it into an upper back movement. And that's something that I see a lot with that exercise too. So I think those are 2 things to keep in mind right there. My second set that you saw there was, my third set that you saw there was 1 set in the 12 to 15 rep range. So a total of 3 sets there. and I rest probably about a minute in between left to right side, and then probably like another minute between both sides together, if that makes sense. Next exercise after that is T-bar row. So I feel like I've touched on this a bunch, and I feel like I probably touch on it every time I talk about the T-bar row. But it's just because I see so many people not T-barring correctly. And this movement is so good for building a thick upper back. I'm just going to be talking about not letting your chest cave in. And again, that is something that I see happen all the time because of this full range of motion paradigm that is going around. And there's a difference between full range of motion and excessive range of motion, right? We're in the gym trying to be bodybuilders. We're not in the gym trying to be gymnasts, okay? Like, you don't get extra points for being able to use crazy ranges of motion that then, take away from your overall output, or that's the range of motion is so excessive that you start using other muscle groups that you're not even trying to target. So that's something to really keep in mind with the T-bar row. Right here, you can see this is full extension, but that doesn't mean that my chest has to cave in, because then you're really going to be affecting your output, because you're going to be affecting your breathing. You're not going to be able to breathe when there's, however much weight is on there, right? 345s and some change. You're not going to be able to breathe with that. It's going to be just completely compressing your chest. So, that's another thing to keep in mind with the T-bar row. The other thing I think to keep in mind would be it needs to be somewhat fluid. I see people T-bar rowing way too much weight, and the reps are so slow. If your reps are super slow on back, I truly do not believe that you are using your back. You're using everything else. You're using your shoulders are coming into play here, biceps, forearms. You're kind of like arming the weight when it's going really slow. So I think that back training, it's super important to have it be like fluid, which you can see really well in these rows especially, right? Like these are quick on the way back. They are relatively fast on the way back. I'm using a little bit of momentum as well to even out the resistance curve of this. So some people would see the way that I'm rowing as incorrect because I'm using a little bit of body English and I'm using momentum. But they won't see it as incorrect on other exercises where they'll do something like put a band somewhere in order to smooth out the resistance curve. I'm just smoothing out the resistance curve manually. I'm doing the same thing that they're doing. I'm just not using a band to do it. And once my, momentum and body English get to the point where I think it's excessive, that is where I will always stop my set. So I'll never really look like I hit failure on these rows, but that's the way that I perform them. I really believe that is the best way to perform the V-bar cable rows right there. And I think that's another exercise that's important to just do in general. It's become almost demonized, the V-bar cable row, that somehow it doesn't build muscle, which is so asinine. Over time, you can just look at all the people who have done that movement and have massive backs, okay? You can even just see me doing that. Like, you could see my back working. It's a movement that works, and you can use a ton of load. If you are somebody who can row that cable stack with decent form, you're gonna have a good back. You cannot tell me that you're not going to have a good back moving that kind of load with decent form. Fourth exercise in is going to be bilateral, I guess you could call it, neutral grip, pull down. This is going to target the lats. So again, this is something I just don't see done anymore. Everybody just does unilateral stuff for lats. You can work your lats with both arms at the same time. Not only does that save you a ton of time in the gym, you're also going to be using more load. Like, just think about it on a leg press. What can you do when you're doing a one-legged leg press? You can't do that much weight. You throw two legs on there, you do, a regular bilateral leg press, you're doing probably triple the weight that you can do with one leg. So think about that in terms of overall output, right? You're going to be using a lot more load. You're probably going to be building more muscle in that case. So, these are things to think about. Be a critical thinker when you are lifting. Just because so-and-so says do this, so-and-so says do that, so-and-so with absolutely no muscle also tells you to do that because they have a model of a skeleton and they're showing you how the skeleton works. Look, bodybuilding is its own case study experiment with thousands and thousands and thousands of case studies within it. So, not saying that the things that bodybuilders do are not evidence-based is completely wrong. And then end the workout here with some curls. This is along the same lines of everything I've been talking about with back. Okay. Everybody's trying to reinvent the curl these days, have all kinds of crazy curls. Look, the elbow, there's only one way it moves, okay, to do biceps. You move, you curl upwards. That's all you can do. So there's really only so many movements that you can do. So pick a movement that you like, that you get a good connection with your bicep, and just do that for years and years and years, and you will get bigger biceps. You don't have to do a million different variations of spider curls and Bayesian curls and, this curl, that curl. Just find something that works and just get good at it, man. It's really just that simple.
So there you have it, guys. That wraps up the back session. As always, man, it's so simple. You do not have to make these things complicated. It's super prevalent to try and make lifting very complicated these days. But man, it really it's so simple. And I think that back day was a good representation. I mean, I've been doing that for 8 months now. Also, basically my entire lifting career, I've been doing very similar movements to that the entire time. I have just slowly over time gotten better and better at them as far as technique and form wise, and I've gotten progressively stronger at them year after year after year in an incremental fashion, taking my body weight up as well. And that's how you gain muscle. It really is just that easy. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the voiceover here. Maybe you took some things away from what I said, but yeah, that's the workout. Super straightforward, man. So I'm gonna go home right now, hop in the shower, get ready to go over to Heidi's parents' house, and we're gonna celebrate Father's Day over there. And yeah, just enjoy the rest of the day and relax, and I will catch you guys in the next episode. Peace.